The story takes place in a world where the demon lord is on the verge of destroying the human world. But luckily, the MC, Aruto, who's from another world, seems to be on the human side, and with a single punch, he manages to defeat the being everyone else had struggled against. With that, Aruto returns to his real world, where he gets scolded by his sister for disappearing once again. But little does she know that the other world's summoning happens with no warning. Afterward, he goes to school where some of the boys start messing around with Aruto. But Ishikawa makes sure to take Aruto's side when unexpectedly the floor of their classroom starts shining. And just like that, their whole class is teleported to that other world. Aruto is relieved to get out of school until he notices Ishikawa lying beside him, which makes him wonder if this is his fault. Nonetheless, Aruto decides to trick her somehow and uses a disguise skill to hide his overpowered stats and turn himself into a merchant. Following that, he tries to wake her up and gets a generously blessed glimpse of her Victoria's secret. Ishikawa instantly realizes it, and after pulling down her skirt, asks Aruto if he saw something, to which he disagrees. She then notices a rabbit, and when Ishikawa tries petting it, the rabbit turns into a menace with rabies, which causes Ishikawa to freak out and run into the forest. There, she finds herself about to be cut in half by an orc, and when Aruto tries to save her, he realizes that he can't use anything but the merchant skills due to his disguise. Having no other choice, he ends up stopping the strike with his bare hands and advises Ishikawa to run away. After that, he uses the merchant's skill named Weapon Creation to create a bow. Aruto then shoots an arrow towards that orc, which sends him flying and crashing into the mountain. Realizing that his identity will be revealed this way, Aruto begins making excuses and reassures Ishikawa that he will protect her, wanting her to keep what she saw a secret in return. Luckily, she agrees to keep it a secret, and with a betrayed face, asks him to protect her. Just then, more of those orcs appear, and when Aruto asks if they still want to fight, the orcs reply that their leader was defeated, and now they have nowhere to go. This makes Aruto realize that the leader fought in order to protect his injured comrades, and creates a bandage to patch the orcs up. With that being said, the orcs go their separate ways after thanking Aruto, and he gets complimented by Ishikawa for doing a good job. Suddenly, another magic circle appears underneath them, and the two of them are teleported to a throne room where the rest of their classmates are present as well. Soon after, the girl sitting on the throne named Aura introduces herself as the princess, and informs them that she wants their help in taking down the demon lord. She further mentions that they have summoned a hero and will expect the rest to fight alongside him, making Aruto realize that she is talking about him. Eventually, one of the boys let Aura know that none of them can defeat an ant, let alone the demon lord. However, Aura then informs them about the bracelet on their hands that lets them check their stats and attach a maximum of 4 skills at a time. But the students still don't buy it and refuse to help defeat the demon lord. Seeing the princess struggle, her knight steps up and tells them to shut their mouths. Furthermore, when he asks Aura if he should slice one of them up to set an example, she disagrees. Ultimately, the president of their class asks the knight if they can go home after defeating the demon lord, and when he agrees, she decides to comply with their requests. To start things off, the knight tells everyone to step forward, and the first one to do so is the president. The mage present evaluates her bracelet and lets her know that she's an A rank. Meanwhile, Aruto and Ishikawa stand at the end of the line, talking about how none of this makes any sense. Before long, his turn arrives, and the mage gets shocked after evaluating his skills, saying that something like this has happened for the first time. Aruto wonders if they found out his true identity, but to his surprise, he is given a potato and a stick, as according to the mage, this should be enough for an F rank like him. Following that, everyone who is dressed up is told to make groups, and Aruto ends up joining one filled with some hot baddies, including Ishikawa, the flatty named Kagawa, and Nagano, the one with hunkers bigger than her face. Ishikawa then tells Aruto to head to the guild, as lower ranks like him are supposed to train there. Once outside the castle, they run into the bullies of their class. Sumida begins flexing the cash they got due to their high ranks while Aruto checks out their stats and finds out how useless their skills are. Sumida then begins to wonder what he should buy for the brokes, but Nagano lets him know that they don't want anything from those who look down on them. Both Sumida and his friend get annoyed, and after realizing that they are in another world, Sumida takes this chance to cop a feel of those jugs, knowing that the police won't come after them. On the other hand, Aruto freezes up, unable to do anything even though he knows that he's stronger than they are in this world. Eventually, Ishikawa intervenes and starts mocking them, but instead of being ashamed, Sumida's friend decides to get a feel of Ishikawa's body as well. However, just in time, Aruto grabs his hand and completely crushes his fingers. At the same time, he slaps the living world out of Sumida and follows it with a punch that sends him crashing into a nearby wall. After that, Aruto begins to wonder if he overdid it and gets complimented by Kagawa, who can't believe he's really an F rank. With that being said, Aruto, along with the Huz, decides to leave while Sumida sits there, furious about what happened, and decides to take his revenge soon. Meanwhile, Nagano also praises Aruto for what he did, and Kagawa adds that it was surprising for a guy who always gets bullied. Shikawa also wonders if they can do extraordinary things like him, and for the time being, decides to head to the guild. Once they reach their destination, they are greeted by an old fart named Makishi who welcomes them inside the guild and registers them as heroes. Following that, Makishi mentions that they look pretty weak, causing Kagawa to argue that they just took out a B-ranked candidate earlier. Nonetheless, Makishi checks their stats and once again asks if they are really hero candidates. At the same time, a girl named Lily appears and lets them know that she will surpass them all. Additionally, she mentions that at B rank or above, everyone is recognized for their skills, but hero candidates like them are abandoned by the kingdom and are like some stray dogs who are no match for trained bloodhounds like her. Makishi also advises them to stay out of sight, and hearing this causes the girls to panic. Kagawa suggests hiding the whole time, but Ishikawa disagrees, and Lily seems to like her mindset. In the end, she agrees to help them find out who they are, and when Makishi tries to stop her, she informs him about seeing Aruto taking down an ogre in one shot. With that, she takes the four of them to the training room and hands them a couple of weapons. Ishikawa then asks her the way to use skills, and gets told by Lily to put a jewel in her bracelet and say the name of her skill. Now that everyone is ready, Lily takes out her daggers and charges towards the girls. She then jumps and tries attacking with her daggers, but gets blocked by Kagawa. Nagano takes advantage of this chance and attacks Lily with a fireball, which strikes her on the cakes, burning her clothes and giving Aruto a lovely view. Lily makes sure to compliment Nagano while Ishikawa starts healing the burnt peaches of hers. Following that, Kagawa decides to showcase her skills and makes a giant shield appear. Lily seems to like the skill, but instead of charging head-on, she jumps above the shield. Furthermore, she uses a skill named Sleepy Gaze that manages to penetrate through the shield and strike Kagawa, causing her to instantly fall asleep. At this point, Nagano steps up and tries using her magic, but her head begins to hurt like crazy, making Lily figure that she's out of mana. With that, their training session is over, and Lily praises them for doing a good job with their stats. Additionally, she lets the girls know that they have all passed, but informs Aruto that he's not finished, as he hasn't shown his skills. When Aruto tries to argue that he doesn't have a skill to begin with, Lily calls it a lie and lets him know that she saw him defeating the ogres in the forest. Aruto still tries to play dumb, and having no other choice, she tries to attack him with her dagger, but Aruto easily manages to dodge, followed by him taking the dagger from her hand and smashing it into pieces. Lily is impressed that he dodged from this distance and even took her weapon. This all makes her even more curious about what Aruto's capable of. With that, she charges him once more, and as expected, Aruto easily dodges all her attacks and tells Lily that he has no intention of fighting. Lily replies that it's a hero's duty to fight, but Aruto lets her know that he just wants to live a life of leisure and tries running away. However, she doesn't back down, which annoys Aruto as he doesn't like being told to fight. Furthermore, her movements are pretty slow for someone like Aruto, but if a so-called F-rank defeats a talented person like her, it'll be a disaster. Ultimately, he stops, and when Lily questions the reason he's not attacking, Aruto informs her that he's ready to surrender. This makes Lily enraged, and she asks if he's trying to insult her. Moreover, she asks him the reason he wants to hide his abilities, and in order to get out of this situation, Aruto lets her know that it was someone else who handled the ogres. But to his surprise, Lily pulls out a visual magic tool which contains a 4K video of his battle against the ogre. Knowing that Aruto probably wants her to keep this a secret, she asks him to get serious. Having no other choice, Aruto is forced to comply and wonders if he should show the same degree of force he used on Sumida. Before long, Lily comes running towards him and he returns the favor by punching her in the arm, which pushes her back. Surprisingly, she managed to strike him with her dagger as well, but to her shock, the dagger didn't do much damage and only left a scratch behind. Makishi advises Lily to stop, but she refuses, saying that she's proud to be an A-rank and won't let this exchange stop her. Furthermore, Lily mentions that she's going to make Aruto fight seriously and begins using her secret skill called the Phantom Blow. Using this skill makes wings appear on the back of Lily, and seeing this, Makishi advises the others to get out of the room. The reason behind this is that Phantom Blow is a skill that allows Lily to concentrate all her stats into attack, but by doing so, she loses the ability to differentiate between friend and foe. While running away, Ishikawa advises Aruto to run away as well, but before he gets the chance to get out, Lily appears in front of him and almost slices him in half, but he manages to dodge at the right time. The others close the door of the room, leaving Aruto inside. Realizing that Lily is currently disoriented, Aruto figures that it's his chance to destroy that visual magic tool, but suddenly she appears right behind him. Even though Aruto manages to block the attack, he realizes that she has gone quite fast, and if things stay the same, he might end up dead. At this point, Aruto begins to wish he had his hero powers right now and figures that he can't take any more damage. In an attempt to fight back, Aruto kicks her in the gut and uses this to get away. Furthermore, he notices the broken dagger on the floor and throws the broken blade towards the visual magic tool. Luckily, he manages to break it, and with that, the evidence against him is now destroyed. However, this allows Lily to appear behind him and land a brutal attack that sends Aruto flying and crashing into the wall. Simultaneously, her magic power dies down, and Lily comes back to her right mind. After taking a look at Aruto's injuries, she wonders if she went overboard, and at the same time, the other girls appear in the room as well. Kagawa takes a closer look and informs the others that he is still breathing, and Makishi suggests taking Aruto to the infirmary. Furthermore, he reassures the baddies that he has just passed out, while Aruto, who is still very much conscious, is glad that he was able to hide his abilities. After taking him to the infirmary, Makishi apologizes to the girls while Lily realizes that her magic tool is gone. Makishi then mentions that Aruto is a boy with mysterious powers and advises the girls to take a bath while he keeps an eye on him. Seeing Ishikawa hesitate, Makishi reassures her that he will be fine and will probably wake up soon. Nagano also tells her that a change of scenery would be nice, to which she agrees. After the girls leave, Aruto thinks that he should get up soon and eventually opens his eyes. He then informs Makishi that he needs to take a quick leak and gets told the directions to the bathroom. After leaving the guild building, Aruto completely forgets what Makishi told him and decides to let the river flow outside, on the wall. At the same time, the girls are enjoying a nice warm bath together. Aruto is also taking a leak right outside the bathroom, completely unaware of what's going on inside. Before long, the girls notice some movement outside the window and realize that someone must be trying to peek. Lily decides to teach him a lesson and tells the girls to use their magic powers. With that, she finally opens the window, but at the same time, Isekai'd accidentally slips and falls on Arudo, pressing her soft, fun bags against his face. Later, she confronts him for what he did, and all Arudo can do is defend himself by reassuring her that he had no such intentions. Soon after, Makishi appears with some rice for everyone to eat, and seeing that the food is pretty simple, Arudo asks if they have oil and salt. He then starts chopping the potatoes and fries them in hot oil, resulting in some freshly made potato chips. All the chicks, along with Makishi, start to compliment Arudo after taking a bite, asking him to give them some more. Following that, he asks Isekai'd to eat some too, but she refuses. Arudo then informs her that he made them specially for her, and eventually she ends up having some. Additionally, he requests that she not be upset anymore, and Kagawa reassures Arudo that it'll be fine, as she is in love with him. Meanwhile, Lily tells the others that all they can do is keep trying to improve, and tells them not to worry as she'll keep them all in good shape. Lily further adds that she's a pretty good teacher, and Makishi allows them to use the guild's facilities as an apology for the trouble caused by his daughter. However, since they are running out of room, Arudo will have to stay in the doghouse. Ultimately, it's time for everyone to sleep, and Arudo heads to the doghouse where he gathers all the wood and uses his ability to fit all of them together. This allows him to make a bed for himself, and Isekai'd, who came to give him the sheets, is impressed by his skills. Furthermore, she informs him that everyone else is asleep and praises the potato chips he made earlier. Moreover, Isekai'd apologizes for all the trouble she has been causing him lately, but Arudo lets her know that it was fun, as this was the first time he had laughed with anyone other than his sister. Isekai'd gives him a smile and starts coming close to getting hot and bothered when suddenly, Lily appears, and after interrupting their flirting session, informs them that their friends are here. Turns out Tanaka and the class president came to the guild in order to inform Arudo that there will be a dungeon exploration contest in 3 months. She further informs him that they are having a contest to see how well the candidates have trained, and there seems to be a reward for it as well. However, Arudo instantly refuses to go, and when Isekai'd asks the reason, he lets her know that it's a pain. Meanwhile, she instantly agrees to go and grabs Arudo, asking him to cooperate as he grabbed her racks yesterday. With that being said, the girls, along with Lily, step out of the dungeon and travel through the forest to eventually reach a lodge where they will be training for the next 3 months. Additionally, she gives Arudo some clothes as a replacement for the equipment he damaged during the battle. Lily then mentions that she has nothing to teach Alto, which makes the girls wonder if they are really that weak, and Isekai'd orders Arudo to make beds for everyone in the meantime. On the other hand, Sumida and the others are busy training, and seeing him train so hard makes the others wonder why he's so worked up about losing to Arudo. Sumida loses his cool after hearing this and takes out his sword. He then points them at the person who made fun of him and lets everyone know that he is much stronger and superior to all of them. Just then, Tanaka knocks Sumida out to protect the others, and while he lies there on the ground, Aura and her trusty knight appear. She grabs him by his hair and forcefully puts some cool-looking sunglasses on his face. This causes Sumida to scream in pain, and before long, blood starts to come out of his eyes. He then manages to get up and display an overwhelming amount of power that he never had before. As they walk away, the knight questions Aura about the reason she is taking care of that trash, to which she replies that Sumida is just the thing to get rid of. Eventually, 3 months have passed, and Lily congratulates the girls for overcoming such difficult training. With tears in his eyes, Arudo also praises the girls and suggests going home after cleaning the shed. However, Isekai'd complains how she'd love to go back to Japan when suddenly, Nagano notices some smoke and Arudo instantly realizes that it's in the shed. They all run back, only to see the shed burning with a letter right next to it. Turns out someone challenged Arudo to the dungeon competition and tried grabbing his attention by burning the shed, which ends up enraging Arudo. Sometime later, they all arrive outside the dungeon where Aura reminds them that there will be a reward for the team that defeats the boss. To Arudo's surprise, Lily also makes an appearance, and when he asks if she's following him, Lily replies that she wanted to see how well he does. Just then, she notices something strange, and after confirming the fact that they all are hero candidates, asks the reason Sumida's powers feel so demonic. This makes Arudo realize that the letter was probably written by Sumida, and he makes up his mind to enter the dungeon. Lily reassures them that she will fight if it comes to it, and Arudo, who can't understand how Sumida got such powers, decides to deal with him once and for all. With that, everyone sits on the carts that move faster than boys pulling up after an "I'm alone" text. On their way inside, several bats start to mess around, and one of them ends up crashing into Isekai'd's face, causing her to fall on top of someone. Before long, they manage to reach their destination, and Nagano freaks out after looking back, as all she sees is Isekai'd letting Arudo have a little taste test of her peaches. Following that, the class president informs everyone that the fighting will start from here on, and asks those not fighting to stand back. With that out of the way, they all run deeper into the dungeon. Before long, they end up coming across some monsters, and both Tanaka and the class president easily manage to deal with all of them. Arudo gets impressed by how well they are handling things when suddenly, he hears a scream followed by cries requesting help. As he looks back, Arudo witnesses one of his classmates running from the monsters who are about to catch her. Isekai'd steps in and hits those monsters with holy arrows, managing to save that girl. After that, Kagawa decides to handle the rest, and after pushing them away, she uses her ability named Shield Bash to punch them. Lastly, Nagano decides to finish them off with her magic and explodes all those monsters with a single spell. Realizing that they won, the girls then celebrate their first victory, and at the same time, some of their other classmates manage to catch up with them. One of the boys compliments them for being so strong, to which Aruto replies, telling him that it's Isekai'd and the girls who are strong. He further informs him that the girls made more effort than others in the class, and when he asks about what Aruto did, he lets him know that he made sure to watch over them. Afterward, Aruto asks if their group saw Sumida and the others, and he tells Aruto the direction Sumida went in, warning Aruto to stay away from Sumida as he has been acting pretty strange lately. Aruto agrees but says that he still needs to meet Sumida and gets told to be careful by his classmate. Following that, they follow the direction given by their classmate and find several corpses of monsters lying on the ground. After taking a quick look, Aruto realizes that they weren't simply defeated but were hit in their weak spots, which helps him figure that Sumida must have gotten really strong. Knowing that it might be dangerous from now on, Aruto decides to go on his own, but Isekai'd reminds him that it will be dangerous for him alone, and Nagano says that they are all a party and should stick together. Hearing this brings tears to Aruto's eyes, and he agrees to head further into the dungeon together. On the other hand, Tanaka and the class president are making progress, and she compliments him for becoming more reliable than he previously was. Tanaka lets her know that it's because he wants to protect the class president, and almost tells her his wish to break her bedroom bed when suddenly. Before they get the chance to even react, Tanaka gets punched in the face by Sumida, who then steps on his body, letting him know that it's revenge. Sumida then mocks Tanaka for being an A rank, and seeing him manage to get back up comes as a surprise to Sumida. However, he kicks him in the gut, but the class president catches Tanaka, making sure that he doesn't receive any more damage. Having no other choice, she decides to fight Sumida and uses one of her skills called the Guilty Cross. This ability targets all of Sumida's limbs and pins him to the wall. Furthermore, the class president tells Sumida that she doesn't want to have a pointless battle with a fellow hero, but to her surprise, Sumida lets out a smile and easily manages to free himself from her skill, letting her know that magic below A rank won't even leave a scratch on him. After that, he walks towards her, and Tanaka, who is still injured, asks her to get behind him, reassuring the class president that he'll protect her. Seeing that Sumida's strength is pretty insane, Tanaka figures that holding back his powers will be foolish and decides to go all out from now on. He then strikes, striking Sumida down with his lightning sword skill, and as soon as he lands his attack, a giant explosion occurs. Moreover, Tanaka notices that his sword has been taken away by Sumida in the midst of that attack, who then stabs Tanaka in the arm using his own sword. After that, he walks towards the class president and breaks her armor, revealing those tiny A-cups for the world to see. Nonetheless, she still refuses to back down and wishes to fight in order to protect Tanaka. Frustrated, Tanaka questions the reason Sumida is not using his strength to do the right thing, reminding him that they are supposed to be heroes. But Sumida replies that he's not really interested in playing heroes with the others and lets him know that he fights for his own reasons. With that, he is almost about to eliminate the class president, but in the nick of time, another person appears and blocks his attack, telling Sumida to withdraw that sword. Elsewhere, Aruto and the others continue making their way forward, and when Nagano mentions how easy it was, he lets her know that Sumida did most of the work for them. Just then, they come across Lily, who informs them that their goal, this is the boss, is right ahead. However, Sumida has already defeated the boss, which came as a shock to her, as even someone like Lily got quite the beating from that boss the last time she came to this dungeon. She still can't believe that he got this strong in a matter of 3 months, and lets him know the direction Sumida went in. Furthermore, she asks Aruto about his plans, to which he replies that he wishes to end it here. Meanwhile, that strange person recognizes Sumida, but Sumida doesn't really seem to care about his identity, as he's confident he can easily deal with him. But that person points his sword towards Aruto, telling Sumida that he should be fighting him instead. Sumida gets excited after seeing Aruto and challenges him to a one-on-one battle. Aruto instantly agrees and gets told by Sumida to follow him. Tanaka tries stopping him, and the class president says that even A ranks like them couldn't touch him. Tonka further says that an F rank like him is doing nothing but heading to his death, and Aruto replies that while he hates fighting as well, he wants this to end. Additionally, he asks Sumida to promise not to hurt anyone if he loses, to which he agrees. Before he goes away, Isekai'd tells him to come back soon, and with that, the two of them go away. The Lego man-faced friend of Sumida mentions that he envies the girls, and when Nagano asks him to stop doing bad things, he replies that he will be fighting alongside Sumida, as that is what friendship means. Meanwhile, the class president tries to thank the person who saved her life, but he ignores her and walks away. On the other hand, Sumida and Aruto arrive in an empty room where Sumida informs Aruto that they can fight as hard as they want. Without wasting any time, he takes out a pair of swords from his body and tries attacking Aruto with them. After dodging those strikes, Aruto uses his creation skill, and after creating a bow, fires a couple of arrows at Sumida. While the arrows are easily dealt with by the sword, Sumida realizes that Aruto is not an F rank and mentions that the class president and the others took it easy on him. He further says that he's not worthy of their mercy and cuts the bow Aruto created in half. Then charges Aruto with his sword, but Aruto farms some aura by easily breaking it with his bare hand, asking what Sumida is trying to say. At this point, Sumida has figured that Aruto's rank might not be able to be measured by rank and asks if he is looking down on him for being a B rank. Sumida then swings his sword once again, asking if Aruto's attitude is because of the fact that he got bullied. But Aruto replies that he's not interested in revenge and counterattacks by landing a punch. They end up making Sumida even more furious, and the two of them continue exchanging blows. During their fight, Sumida tells Aruto that after he is done with him, he will have fun with his women, to which Aruto replies, telling Sumida to stop dreaming and creates a sword with his skill. He then dashes towards Sumida, and after clashing swords with each other, Aruto eventually manages to disarm Sumida of his sword and lands a critical hit. Sumida is forced to back away as his chest starts to bleed, and after holding him at sword point, Aruto asks him to promise not to hurt anyone again. Sumida agrees, but as soon as Aruto takes his guard down, he grabs Aruto by his face and uses a demonic skill that starts stealing his strength. Sumida then lets him know that it's the curse of evil and comments on how he is going to be the victor of their battle. Elsewhere, Ishikawa manages to fully heal Tanaka when suddenly, they hear a scream, and Nagano instantly realizes that it's Aruto's voice. Ishikawa freaks out and decides to go have a look, and when Tanaka suggests going with them, he gets told by Kagawa to stay behind. With that, the girls hurry towards that room and find Aruto getting beaten to a pulp. Without wasting a second, Ishikawa attacks Sumida with her holy arrow, which he manages to dodge, allowing the girls to check up on Aruto. He asks them not to get in his way, and Ishikawa starts healing Aruto's injuries right away. However, Sumida tries to intervene, and in return, he gets hit by one of Ishikawa's holy arrows, which ends up burning a part of his body, making him even more furious. Aruto tells Ishikawa to get back, but she lets him know that he's the one who should get back. When Aruto argues that he's the one who promised to protect her, Ishikawa replies that she never expected him to, and lets Aruto know that she just wants to help him out for once. At the same time, Sumida gets back on his feet, and seeing the damage dealt to him by the holy arrows, Aruto figures something out and asks Ishikawa to lend him her strength by holding his hand. Sumida tries to intervene, but Kagawa steps in and protects the two using her shield. While she tries her best to hold him down, Aruto combines his powers with Ishikawa's to create a holy dagger. With the new weapon fully developed, Aruto dashes towards Sumida, but he easily manages to dodge Aruto's strike and lands a critical elbow strike. Luckily, Aruto gets back up, and after letting Sumida know that his weak point is a holy attribute, he cuts him perfectly and destroys the mask he was wearing, which reveals the chopped face Sumida was hiding. At this point, Sumida loses all his powers and falls to the ground in disbelief while Aruto and the others leave him be. Once outside, Ora thanks everyone for participating in the contest and gives Sumida the reward. When Ishikawa asks if he's supposed to receive that, Aruto replies that he was the one who defeated the boss. But Sumida asks the knight to give him that mask instead. But before that, the knight questions if he has found out who the hero is. Sumida replies that there's no hero from that bunch, but he has his eyes set on Aruto. The next day, Lily brings a bag for Aruto and informs him that it's called an item box. When Aruto asks if it's expensive, she replies that it's about 100 times what their current equipment cost. Annoyed, Ishikawa asks if it's supposed to be a special kind of gift for a special someone when suddenly, Makishi appears, informing him that it's from him. When Aruto asks what he means, Makishi replies that he sold Aruto's potato chips while they were gone and made enough bread to have a couple of busty bunny girls by his side. Eri then asks if they will be going to defeat the Demon Lord now, and when she sees Ishikawa hesitate to answer, Eri lets her know that Makishi turned the guild's basement into a high-end factory, suggesting the three of them go back to training. Makishi asks Aruto the same question, to which he replies that becoming a shopkeeper until the Demon Lord is defeated seems like a good idea. After hearing this, Makishi advises him to do a part-time job, as he will have a much easier time with some experience. With that being said, Aruto heads to the shop Makishi recommended, where he is welcomed by a zesty-looking shopkeeper. When Aruto informs him about wanting to do a part-time job, the shopkeeper wonders if he can really do it and notices the item box he's rocking. After seeing it, his attitude takes a 180-degree turn, and as a test, he asks Aruto to make a table set for him. After reading the requirements, Aruto figures that he wants a table set for newlywed couples and uses his creation skill to instantly make it without any problem. The shopkeeper is impressed by his skills and asks Aruto to sign a contract. Without looking much into it, Aruto ends up signing it and gets told by him to pay 100,000 gorda. Seeing the confused look on his face, the shopkeeper lets him know that the contracts say that he has to pay for the materials used. And when Aruto asks how much 100,000 gorda is, he replies that it's enough to buy a new house. Aruto gets mad and says that there's no way plain wood can be that expensive, and gets told by the shopkeeper that it was a rare wood that takes 300,000 years to develop. Furthermore, he mentions that contracts are the lifeblood of merchants, and Aruto will have to sell his liver otherwise. However, he also agrees to look the other way if Aruto gives him the item box instead, when unexpectedly he gets interrupted by someone who questions if that wood is really that rare. It turns out to be a little girl who says that for a wood that old, there aren't a lot of rings in it. When the shopkeeper tries to argue with her, she suggests taking it to the Merchant Guild appraiser. Annoyed, he asks who she is, and the lowly introduces herself as Rococo, a member of the Merchant Guild. The shopkeeper freaks out after hearing this and begs her to spare his license. Nonetheless, she forgives him for the time being and walks away, but gets stopped by Aruto, who thanks her for helping him out. She calls him a lousy merchant, and when Aruto informs her that this shop was recommended to him by someone he knows, Rococo realizes that he's at the wrong address. But after taking a closer look at the address, she notices that it's the address of her shop, and realizes that he's the person who is supposed to come for the part-time job. With that being said, Rococo officially welcomes him and tells Aruto that he will be her younger brother from now on. Following that, Rococo asks for Aruto's name, and after he is done introducing himself, Rococo suggests going to the port in order to buy some fish. Furthermore, she mentions that it would be great if they had some more helping hands, to which Aruto replies that he has some people who can help. Meanwhile, at the guild, Lily is busy training the girls, and after throwing Ishikawa onto the ground, she scolds her for screaming so loudly. Just then, Aruto arrives and asks Ishikawa if she's all right. Lily questions the reason behind his appearance as they are in the middle of training. He gathers his courage and asks if it's okay with her to borrow Ishikawa and the others for some time, to which Lily instantly disagrees, reminding Aruto that they are currently training. Just then, Makishi appears and asks Aruto to explain his reasons. Additionally, he asks if this will make them any money, and when Aruto agrees, he instantly gives him permission to take the girls away. When Lily tries to argue, Makishi lets her know that Aruto is a tree that grows money, advising her to believe in him. With that being said, the girls, along with Rokoko, are on their way to the port, and Ishikawa mentions that Lily got quite the shock in the contest after seeing Sumida defeat the boss so easily while she struggled so much against it. Rokoko then suggests taking a breather once they are done with their work, and when Ishikawa asks her about the place they are going, Rokoko informs her that it's a port city called Portia, and since it's a trading spot, there are a ton of rare things there. Kagawa gets excited to buy some rare things with her allowance, and Rokoko adds that Portia is famous for its resorts, beaches, and seafood. Eventually, they arrive at the port, and Rokoko pays a fisherman a visit, asking him to give her the usual order. However, he apologizes and informs her that he only has 3 instead of 10, as sharks turned out at their fishing spot. When Rokoko asks if he has something else that might interest her, he lets her know that there are only sharks available. After taking a look at those so-called sharks, Aruto realizes that they are actually tuna, but the fisherman doesn't even know what a tuna is and calls them black sharks. When Aruto asks if he isn't going to eat them, the fisherman replies that it reeks and is too oily for them to eat. Ultimately, Aruto decides to take the job into his own hands and asks for a knife. Furthermore, he cuts a little piece of that tuna, and after taking a bite, realizes that it really is tuna. He then offers some of it to Rokoko, but she doesn't seem to like it and mentions that it's too rubbery and smelly. The others decide to give it a taste, but after taking a bite, they don't seem to appreciate it as well and say that it's pretty oily and smelly. Rokoko also agrees, saying that they can't sell it unless the oily and smelly part of it is taken care of. Suddenly, an idea pops into Aruto's mind, and he asks Rokoko for some seasonings, and to his luck, she seems to have a mountain of them in her bag. With that, she takes out each and every seasoning she has. After trying the first one, Aruto realizes that it's soy sauce, and at the same time, Kagawa manages to find some wasabi as well. Using the ingredients available, she makes up a dish and presents it to Rokoko and the fisherman. As soon as they take a bite, the two of them lose their minds and start asking how he turned it into something that good. Rokoko comments on how the sharp taste of that paste erased the smell, and the black sauce enhances the flavor, letting him know that this will surely sell. With that, she orders all the tuna available, and soon after, they arrive at a restaurant. Rokoko asks the owner to lend her the place for 100,000 gurda, to which she agrees, and without wasting any time, Aruto brings all the tunas inside. Once in the kitchen, Rokoko asks Nagano to use water magic and store the fish in some rice. After working for some time, she suggests taking a short break and buys some drinks for the others. There seems to be a variety of drinks, and the one Kagawa chose turns out to be orange juice. Moreover, the one Nagano chose turns out to be a mysterious drink, and as soon as he takes a sip, something odd happens to her body. Following that, Rokoko asks her to take one drink to Aruto, but to her shock, Nagano slaps the drink out of her hand and walks away, making Rokoko wonder if she did something bad. Elsewhere, Aruto is enjoying his artwork when suddenly, someone throws one of the drinks at him, and after taking a look, he realizes that it's Nagano. Nonetheless, Aruto drinks it and praises it for how fizzy it is, just like a soda from their previous world. Just then, Nagano gets a little too close to him, and Aruto notices that she smells like alcohol. Nagano lets him know that it doesn't really matter and questions if he knows the reason she's so excited. Aruto tries shaking her back to her senses when unexpectedly she ends up taking off her clothes, showing Aruto the giant jugs she's blessed with. At the same time, Ishikawa arrives and gets shocked after seeing what Nagano is doing. Ishikawa then shouts, saying that she doesn't care and runs out of the room. Seeing this makes Rokoko and Kagawa, who are sitting outside, concerned, and they decide to check out what's going on inside the room, only to see Nagano trying her best to get her V-card swiped. Aruto explains that Nagano is drunk and asks the girls to stop her already. Rokoko agrees, but when she tries to stop her, Nagano gets furious and tells Rokoko not to get in her way. Furthermore, she starts to suffocate Rokoko by pressing her against that giant pack of fun bags. This makes Rokoko realize that she's out of control and suggests putting her to sleep on the second floor, and while Nagano tries her best to get away, the two of them manage to take her away. Afterward, they pay Ishikawa a visit, who is sitting by the boats on her own. Rokoko lets her know that it's her fault and informs her that there was alcohol among the drinks she bought. Kagawa also tries to explain that Nagano was drunk, but with tears in her eyes, Ishikawa questions if Nagano likes Aruto. She further asks if Aruto likes Nagano as well, which ends up annoying Rokoko, and she advises Ishikawa to just ask Aruto herself, saying that she'll not get anywhere if she's always scared to take risks. Next morning, Aruto puts the board on the shop he was working on yesterday, and after he is done, Nagano pays him a visit. She apologizes for all the trouble she caused yesterday and mentions that she doesn't remember anything that happened. After making sure that Nagano really doesn't remember anything, Aruto tells her to forget about it, and Ishikawa, who is standing afar, gets jealous seeing the two of them talk. Simultaneously, Rokoko appears and tells Aruto to bring out the sashimi as the work is about to start. With that being said, she begins announcing the new type of seafood they have introduced and reassures everyone that it's something that would even appease royalty. Some of them are interested, and Aruto offers them a free sample. However, after seeing that it's just raw fish, they quickly lose all interest, saying that there's no way they'd eat that. Rococo comes up and explains that there's a heavy stigma against raw food in this region, which makes Aruto panic as they wouldn't be able to sell anything this way. However, Rococo seems to have a trump card and decides to change their tactics. With that, she takes out a swimsuit and tells the shorties to wear it. Before long, it starts to catch the attention of all the gooners around, who are shocked to see those busty babes with their bodies on display, offering them food. As expected, they decide to put their differences with raw food behind them for this and end up giving it a taste. Just like the others, they are shocked by how tasty it is, and before long, a ton of people start gathering around the girls. Rococo decides to give it a little more push and makes Nanego advertise the shop where they are selling this stuff. Without wasting a second, the whole army of simps ran towards the shop and fought to enter it first. Rudo tells Ishikawa that it might be called cheating, but it can be called a success if those people understand the taste of tuna. He then mentions that Nagano is quite late and notices that she has been getting a lot of admirers. While looking at her, he ends up calling Nagano cute in front of Ishikawa, which makes her furious, and she tells Aruto to go help her instead. This is heard by everyone, and while Aruto stands there confused, Ishikawa walks away. Aruto asks Kagawa if he did something wrong, which makes her angry, and she tells him to ask himself what he did. Aruto replies by asking if this is his fault, and without giving him a clear reply, she walks away as well. On the other hand, Ishikawa is standing on the beach, and soon after, Aruto appears as well. After taking off his shoes, he steps into the water and asks Ishikawa the reason she is feeling so down. When she tells him to think about it himself, Aruto replies that he doesn't understand anything. This causes Ishikawa to get annoyed, and after walking towards Aruto, she presses her itsy bits against him, asking if he can understand her feelings now. But before he gets the chance to say anything, a giant monster appears right behind them and swallows them alive. It then disappears into the ocean like nothing happened. After some time, Ishikawa wakes Aruto up, and after making sure that he is okay, they both start to wonder where they are. Suddenly, an evil-looking shorty makes an appearance and tells them that she has them in her palm and will make sure to destroy them. With that being said, she does a fancy move and lands on the ground. Following that, she tells Aruto that he has inhumane powers, and when Aruto questions the reason she is saying all this, the girl lets him know that it's no use trying to reign in ignorance. He then notices a magical stone machine in her hand, and the girl elaborates that she felt a presence earlier and decided to use this magic stone device. With that, she witnessed his fight with Sumida, and that was the first time she had seen that level of power in a human. Due to this, she now wants him to fight her in order to see who is stronger. But to her surprise, Aruto instantly disagrees, and after letting her know that he's just a merchant, Aruto starts walking away. However, the girl replies that she won't just let him leave and hits them with an attack that ends up splitting the ground. Furthermore, she questions if Aruto really thought he could run away from the Demon King and lets him know that she is the Demon King named Elizabeth, the one they have been looking for. With that, she lunges at Aruto and after grabbing him by his shoulder, hits him with her fire breath point blank. Ishikawa gets shocked after seeing this, and Aruto falls to the ground with his face on fire, and Elizabeth figures that this is it for him. She then lands on the ground, and to her shock, Aruto sits back up and mentions how he thought it was the end of him. Confused, Elizabeth questions how he is still alive after being hit by her flame attack, but he ignores her questions and yells at Elizabeth for burning his supreme drip. While Elizabeth stands there shocked after hearing about his priorities, Aruto gets back on his feet, and after walking towards Elizabeth, lets her know that it's time for punishment. He then punches her on the head, causing her to scream in pain. She then gets even more furious and asks Aruto who exactly he thinks she is. Deciding not to forgive him now, Elizabeth raises her hand in the air, and a bright light appears from within, blinding Aruto. Soon after, he witnesses a giant hand appear and grab him tightly. Turns out Elizabeth transformed into her true form, which is of a giant dragon, and starts flying straight up towards the sky. After reaching a certain height, Elizabeth mentions that she'll make Aruto regret what he did and begin flying down at full speed. Aruto figures that even he might die if he hits the ground like this, and notices that they are headed straight towards Ishikawa. Realizing that he might not make it in time, Aruto uses his strength to free himself from Elizabeth and runs towards her face. Once he's close enough, Aruto jumps and punches her in the face using his full strength. This sends Elizabeth flying and crashing into the ground, head first. The damage that was inflicted transforms her into her human form, and soon after, her lackeys appear to check up on her. They then notice Aruto and decide to protect Elizabeth from him. However, she advises them to run away as they will surely be trampled on. But to her surprise, they refuse to move, and at the same time, Ishikawa asks Aruto if they can go back to their world if they defeat the Demon Lord. This reminds Aruto of the deal they had with Aura when suddenly, he notices the ogre he fought earlier standing among Elizabeth's soldiers. The ogre then mentions that there is something he wants to tell Aruto, and explains that it was the humans who started this war in the first place. Apparently, humans came to where they were living peacefully and eliminated countless demons. Not just troops and soldiers, but they also eliminated indiscriminately. Elizabeth thought that Aruto might become a threat, so she decided not to let him. After hearing this, Aruto realizes that he can't see them as bad guys now, and decides to look for another way to go back, which doesn't involve defeating the Demon King. Elizabeth gets flustered after hearing this, and is impressed by the fact that Aruto has a heart big enough to forgive someone who tried to eliminate him. She has fallen in love with him now, and asks Aruto to pop her cherry. Ishikawa intervenes and lets Elizabeth know that she won't allow that to happen. Elizabeth figures that she might like Aruto too and suggests they split the days, so both of them get alone time with Aruto. Meanwhile, Aruto decides to head back as the others will start to get worried and get interrupted by Elizabeth, who decides to come along. Luckily, her soldiers manage to catch her, asking Elizabeth to recover first, and seeing that she is distracted, Aruto decides to leave, and the ogre offers to help him out. He then calls the sea dragon to give Aruto a lift back home and suggests meeting again sometime, to which Aruto agrees. Sometime later, the two of them finally return to the restaurant, and seeing them alive and well brings tears to Rokoko's eyes as she thought they had bitten the dust. Just then, the other girls arrived as well, letting Ishikawa know that they were really worried. Rokoko then suggests going inside to talk in detail, and after sitting across from each other on the table, they explain everything that happened and how they will have to find a different method to return to Japan. Nagano is surprised to hear that the Demon King is not their enemy when out of nowhere. The Demon King herself, Elizabeth, appears right behind them. Ishikawa freaks out after seeing her and asks the reason behind her arrival, to which Elizabeth replies that she came to get her cheeks clapped by Aruto. However, Ishikawa instantly refuses, and the two of them start bickering with each other. She then informs the others that Elizabeth is the Demon King, making them wonder how she isn't scared of her. Before long, Aruto arrives as well and is surprised by the fact that Elizabeth actually came. She then notices the food in his hand and gets told by Aruto that it's called sashimi. Curious, Elizabeth asks if she can have a bite, to which Aruto agrees. With that, she ends up eating one of the sashimi, and as expected, she ends up loving the taste. Furthermore, Elizabeth mentions that she has never eaten something like this and starts liking Aruto even more due to his cooking skills. She then requests some more but gets told by Rokoko that it was the last one as there's not much finishing going on due to the appearance of a violent monster. This comes as a shock to Elizabeth, and when Ishikawa asks if it's not one of her underlings, Elizabeth replies that she has told them to avoid humans and figures that it must be the Leviathan. Apparently, it's a sea monster that nobody wants around them due to the fact that it's so violent and keeps destroying stuff. For the sake of sashimi, Elizabeth decides to deal with Leviathan, and when Rokoko questions if she will be able to, Elizabeth reminds her that she's the mighty Demon King. With that being said, Rokoko decides to officially submit a subjugation request for Leviathan. In order to hunt it down, Rokoko wanted to use a ship from the Merchant Guild, but because of the rumors, they didn't want the ship to get destroyed. Due to this, she had no option but to borrow a ship from a rather immoral man, and the man she talks about turns out to be none other than Makishi. After catching up with Aruto, Makishi mentions that this is going to be profitable and shows him the ship he purchased with his ideas and efforts. While Aruto admires the ship, Makishi reminds Rokoko that the percentage of profits from the Black Sharks will be given to him. With that being said, they eventually start to sail, and after covering some distance, Aruto picks up a box and takes it to Nagano, asking if she can use lightning magic. Just then, Elizabeth intervenes and asks what Aruto is planning, to which he replies that he was thinking about having some lightning-infused rounds to fight Leviathan. Elizabeth mentions that if it were flame-infused, she would have been able to help and get told by Aruto that it wouldn't work against the Leviathan. Seeing her offer getting rejected by Aruto, Ishikawa starts making fun of her, which causes the two of them to start arguing once again. Meanwhile, Kagawa, who is keeping watch, notices a weird ship coming their way, and after taking a closer look, the crew finds out that it's Captain Gigi's pirate ship. Makishi calls them enemies and orders his crew to start firing at them. However, even after firing several cannonballs at the enemy ship, little to no damage is done, and they keep coming at them with full speed. Knowing that they won't be able to get out of the way, Makishi tells everyone to brace for impact, and just like that, both ships end up colliding. The pirates from the other ship use planks to board Makishi's ship, and after witnessing everything that's happening, Elizabeth decides to help out too. She uses her flame magic to send most of the pirates flying off the ship, impressing everyone, including the remaining pirates. Just then, the captain of the pirates named Gigi appears and scolds his men for not being able to handle things on their own. Following that, Gigi lands in front of Elizabeth, suggesting they do it one-on-one like real men. With that, Gigi takes out his guns, letting Elizabeth know that even a demon lord would be reduced to ashes against them. Elizabeth finds it interesting and tells Aruto to come to her, and without wasting any time, he complies. But as expected, she sends him flying as well, and Gigi lands exactly where his men landed. He then looks at Elizabeth, calling it a fierce battle and deciding to retreat for today. Meanwhile, Elizabeth starts getting praised by the whole ship crew, and she mentions how nice a reward would be. For that, she calls Aruto, who straight up refuses to give her any children. Instead, she requests him to pat her head, and without thinking much, he ends up doing so. After he is done, Elizabeth screams with excitement and mocks Ishikawa, asking if she is jealous. Just then, they notice the pirate ship that was going away getting absolutely wrecked by something, and that something turned out to be the Leviathan. Terrified, all the pirates started asking for help. Aruto asks Elizabeth to distract the Leviathan for a while, and when she asks the reason, Aruto replies that he doesn't want the pirates to die before they can be rescued. Elizabeth is impressed by the fact that he's trying to save people who were trying to eliminate him, and complies with Aruto's request with no further discussion. Meanwhile, a boat from Makishi's ship comes to rescue the pirates, but at the same time, the Leviathan starts heading towards them. Eventually, it launches a powerful water attack, and luckily, Elizabeth comes in clutch and blocks the attack, managing to protect those pirates. She tells the pirates to go to safety and rushes towards the Leviathan. This allows the crew members to save all the pirates in the ocean, and Aruto makes sure to thank Makishi for cooperating with them. However, this is all according to plan as Makishi wants to hire them for minimum wage. After that, Aruto asks the pirates if everyone from their crew is present, and after having a quick check, they agree, only for one of them to realize that they are missing one person. At the same time, Elizabeth works hard to dodge the attacks from the Leviathan and decides to finish it off in one shot. With that, she pulls out the Divine Annihilator skill and is ready to hit the Leviathan with it when suddenly, she notices someone on Leviathan's head, and it turns out to be none other than Gigi himself. He tells Elizabeth to attack while he holds the monster back, but from her perspective, all Gigi is doing is riding it peacefully. Additionally, he might die as well if she attacks, but Gigi is ready to give his life for the sake of his men. Nonetheless, Elizabeth returns to the ship and informs Aruto that she can't fight because Gigi is on the Leviathan's head. This comes as a shock to everyone, and one of the pirates asks Aruto to save Gigi, as he was the person who saved them from becoming the trash they were. As expected, Aruto agrees to help them out and gets told by one of the crew members that it's heading their way. The Leviathan then attacks the boats with its water attack, and this time, Kagawa steps up to protect them. She uses Ally Guard skill to block the attack, but the shield easily breaks due to the sheer power of that attack. Just in time, Nagano appears and freezes the whole attack, making it fall into the ocean. As the boat shakes, Kagawa almost falls into the ocean as well, but gets saved by Elizabeth, who advises her to fight things her own size. With a smile on her face, she thanked Elizabeth for saving her, causing the Demon King to blush. Following that, Elizabeth heads towards Nagano, and after picking her up, asks Nagano to cooperate with her in order to nullify the next attack. When Nagano starts to hesitate, Elizabeth tells her to get a hold of herself, reminding Nagano that she wants to protect her friends as well. With that, the next attack comes, and while Elizabeth makes sure to dodge it, Nagano works hard to freeze it before it reaches the boat. Aruto notices that he can reach the Leviathan with ice floating in the ocean, and Ishikawa decides to help him out by using a skill named Haste on him. This skill powers him up, and when Aruto asks where she learns a skill like that, Ishikawa replies that Lily was the one who taught her, and after complimenting it, Aruto jumps off the ship. He then runs towards the Leviathan using the ice blocks and manages to take Gigi away from the Leviathan. Aruto then throws Gigi towards the ship, but fails to notice Leviathan, who had appeared right next to him by that time. The Leviathan tries making a meal out of Aruto, but he somehow manages to free himself, only for the Leviathan to attack him underwater, causing Aruto to crash into the seafloor. Even then, the Leviathan doesn't give up and continues attacking Aruto. Although Aruto doesn't seem to take any damage from this attack, he starts running out of breath when suddenly, he notices that the attack has stopped. Turns out it's thanks to Elizabeth, who transformed into her real form to tackle the Leviathan. While she distracts it, Aruto figures that he can use his haste skill and abilities to finish the monster off. For that, he goes after Leviathan at full speed, and at the same time, Elizabeth flies it in the sky. Aruto, who manages to jump even higher, pulls out his dollar store knife and stabs the Leviathan's head with it. As the Leviathan roars in pain, both Aruto and Elizabeth get away from it before it ultimately explodes. Back on the ship, Ishikawa praises Aruto for doing a good job, and he complains to Elizabeth, who didn't bring him back to the ship. Elizabeth apologizes, saying that she was distracted by something unexpected. The thing she's talking about turns out to be an unconscious girl with her cheeks out and about. Gigi then steps up, and after scolding everyone for ogling at the hottie, he covers her body using his jacket, saying that a maiden's body should only be seen by her lover. Elizabeth gets annoyed at him for saying such cool stuff after not doing anything during the battle. Aruto tells her not to mind him and asks who the girl is, to which Elizabeth replies that it's Leviathan. Everyone gets shocked after hearing this, and she elaborates that Leviathan can transform like she can, and before long, Leviathan wakes up. The first thing she asks is about her body, to which Elizabeth replies, telling her that she lost. This reminds her that Aruto was the one who stabbed her, and in a joking manner, Elizabeth wonders how they should cook her. Leviathan gets terrified after hearing this and bows in front of the crowd gathered, asking them to forgive her. Furthermore, she makes sure that those shiny peaches are on display, and after taking a good look at them, Aruto suggests overlooking it as he'd rather not beat up a girl. However, Elizabeth disagrees and mentions that Leviathan will continue attacking the ship once again, and the pirates agree with her as well, telling Aruto that they have lost a lot of ships because of her. One of the pirates then tells Gigi to give his opinion, and while looking all nonchalant, he tells his men to forgive the girl. When they ask for the reason, Gigi replies that it's a man's duty to forgive the sins of women. Just then, Aruto notices that Leviathan is no longer present, and Ishikawa notices her trying to jump off the boat. Before running away, Leviathan laughs at them for falling for her trick and jumps in the water, threatening to send all of them to hell the next time she sees them. Elizabeth mentions how Aruto's weakness is his soft heart and tells him not to worry, as she knew something like that might happen. After swimming for a few meters, Leviathan starts drowning, begging them to help her out. After she is pulled back on the boat, Leviathan can't believe that someone like her almost drowned and gets told by Elizabeth that she made sure to seal off half of her powers while she was unconscious. It means she won't be able to swim unless Elizabeth allows her to, and from now on, Leviathan is going to be her underling. As expected, she freaks out after hearing this and mentions how death is better than becoming a slave to a midget like her. On the other hand, Makishi appears behind Gigi, telling him to pay him back tenfold for saving his life. Gigi argues that he has no intention of working under anyone, and instead, Makishi tells him to pay 1,000,000 gorda for one soul. Gigi gets furious after hearing this and tells Makishi that he can't put a price on a person's life, which makes Makishi question the reason he's talking back after he saved his so-called precious life. Now he wants the pirates to work under him in order to pay the debt off. But Gigi still doesn't agree and lets him know that he'd rather live by his own rules. With that, he tells his men to leave, only to be told that they signed a contract with Makishi in exchange for saving Gigi's life. With that, while staring at the setting sun, Makishi promises to work Gigi to the bone. 2 weeks later, Leviathan is working hard and catching fish for Elizabeth, who then praises her, calling Leviathan Cena. Annoyed, she replies that her name is Seal and hopes that she never sees Elizabeth ever again. Following that, Seal starts swimming away, and as soon as Elizabeth snaps her fingers, she starts to drown again. After returning to the boat, Seal reminds Elizabeth that she promised to set her free once she caught some fish, to which Elizabeth replies that she didn't say when. After that, Seal asks the reason the Demon King is allied with humans, and Elizabeth lets her know that she wants Arudo's children. Seal agrees that while Arudo might look like a dimwit, he's pretty strong, but according to Elizabeth, he is not interested in giving her children. Seal then lets her know that someone like him would be more interested in a homely woman compared to a demon lord, which comes as a shock to Elizabeth. Seal further mentions that a woman who can do cooking, cleaning, and laundry would be far more attractive. Elizabeth gets excited and flies off, leaving Seal behind, who can't swim back to the shore. Elsewhere, the fisherman compliments Rococo and Arudo for getting this many fish. Arudo lets him know that it's all thanks to a girl named Seal, and Rococo comments on how Makishi is making sure to work the pirates to the bone. This makes Arudo realize that he hasn't seen Gigi lately, to which Rococo replies that he was fired after 2 days due to his laziness. Additionally, she tells Arudo that there's something he needs to build in order to transport the fish when suddenly, Elizabeth appears and asks what she should do to become a more homely woman. Confused, Arudo tells her that he doesn't know and asks Elizabeth to talk to him later, as he's currently busy with work. As she works away, Rococo stops Elizabeth and asks her to help with the cooking in her shop, as cooking might turn her into a more homely woman. Without wasting a second, she runs into the shop and asks Isekai'd to swap with her for cooking duty. Furthermore, she informs Isekai'd that she's going to become a homely woman in order to impress Arudo. As Elizabeth starts cooking, she mentions how she can't wait to see Isekai'd's face after Arudo chooses her, which causes Isekai'd to get furious and suggest a cooking battle between the two of them. Meanwhile, outside the shop, a geezer appears and mentions that he can feel a clash between 2 culinary titans. He then walks past Rococo, who instantly recognizes him. On the other hand, Isekai'd questions how they will decide the winner, to which Elizabeth replies that they will have Arudo taste the dish. Suddenly, that old man appears behind them, and when asked by Elizabeth who he is, he introduces himself as the nomadic sage of cuisine. At the same time, Rococo informs Arudo that he is a big name in the world of food who decided to quit his duties and wander the world, looking for new food. That old man then showcases his gold medal to prove his abilities, and while Elizabeth doesn't really understand, he agrees to make him the judge. With that, he formally announces the start of the battle and lets them know that the main dish will be black shark. When he asks them about the prize, Elizabeth mentions that the winner gets to spend a night with Arudo. As soon as the battle begins, Elizabeth decides not to hold back and starts cooking the fish in quite a flashy manner. Isekai'd, who is impressed, makes up her mind not to lose, only to realize that the main ingredient she needs to cook rice is not present. Turns out, Elizabeth did that trick to grab Isekai'd's attention and disposed of her ingredients in the meantime, which makes her believe that she has already won. In a state of panic, Isekai'd figures that she needs to come up with a new dish, something Arudo would like. Outside the shop, there are a ton of people gathered, and Rococo figures that it must be due to the cooking battle. The two of them end up going inside as well, where the old man announces that Arudo will be the judge. The first one to present her dish is Elizabeth, and her dish looks like the head of a crow who has seen better days. That old man recognizes it as the cuisine named the Demon King's head, and mentions that the cuts of fish are placed around the head, and the leaves depict the sheer landscape of the land. Without wasting any time, Arudo breaks a piece of it, and as soon as she does, he notices that the ingredients inside are still steaming. With that, he takes a bite and comments on how tasty it is. It is lightly salted, the meat is really juicy, and the technique used has cooked the fish from the inside out. Elizabeth let him know that the technique is called demonic burning, which was invented by the demons. Afterwards, she asks him to eat the meat around the head, and as soon as he does, Arudo's mouth starts cooling down, and it starts to taste much better. Eventually, he comes up with a decision and calls it a superb dish. Following that, the old man tells Isekai'd to present her dish, and the dish she made turns out to be a black shark don. After seeing it, the old man says that the winner is already decided, as it has no chance against Elizabeth's dish. Nonetheless, Arudo gives it a go, and instantly remembers the place he used to eat in his previous world. Isekai'd then lists all the dishes he was making, asking Arudo if he was trying to make dishes from their home world, which most likely means he's homesick. This makes him realize that she's telling the truth, and remembers that this world's food is completely different from what they grew up with. As Arudo was feeling homesick, Isekai'd decided to make something from their world, and while it tastes a little different from their country, it's similar enough. Following that, he gives him a cup of tea as well, along with sashimi, white rice, and sweet tamagoyaki. After eating it all, Arudo calls it a well-balanced diet, and comments on how it tastes like his hometown. Witnessing this reminds the old man that food is only complete if the cook thinks about who they are serving to, and with that being said, it is finally time for Arudo to make a decision. He further informs Arudo that the winner gets to spend a night with him, but Arudo replies that he can't just decide like this. The girls then start pressuring him, and having no other choice, he ends up running away. The old man calls it a draw, and when Rococo asks about the food, he mentions that this shop's food is exquisite. After promising to remember this experience, the old man decides to take his leave. Later that night, Ishikawa enters Arudo's room, telling him that she was the winner of the battle. Seeing this, Arudo tries running away, only to see Elizabeth hanging outside the window, suggesting they start making some bobbies. Ultimately, Arudo ends up getting sandwiched between the two baddies and yells at them to get out. The next morning, both the girls start embracing each other, thinking that it's Arudo, while he wakes up on the floor and walks out of the room. There, he finds Rokoko and talks about the refrigerator discussion they were having yesterday. Rokoko lets him know that Nagano's cooler box won't be enough and informs him about a material that can be used to insulate the boxes. That ingredient is a foam made by ice crystal crab, but they only live in the frozen lands of Korgland. Although she knows it's difficult, Rokoko asks Arudo to handle this matter and allows him to take the stuff she acquired from all over the world. With that being said, the girls enter the warehouse and start messing around with the stuff present there. Noticing both Elizabeth and Ishikawa talking to each other in a weird manner, Arudo asks if something happened, and Elizabeth lets him know that because of him, she almost made love to Ishikawa. Following that, Ishikawa calls Arudo and shows him something that turns out to be a smartphone from their world. Which girl do you think Arudo will end up with? Comment Merchant if you'd like a part 2 of this series. As usual, thank you for tuning in and we'll catch you in the next one.